Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Lu. I found a way of reducing BTO cost divorce. And this is going to be extremely controversial, and a lot of the young people would like this. But I think most of us who are much older in age will agree with this. For those people who haven't watched my video yesterday, we discussed a very interesting finding by NUS academia that talk about the relationship between BTO and a number of increasingly worrying divorces. But interestingly, one of the ideas that came out from the readers led me to a very creative idea of how to reduce these BTO divorces. And this is really very, very controversial. So let's watch on, shall we? So as a backdrop, there is a book called Kiasunomics written by 4 NUS professors. And they have actually described quite a lot of things, but one of the most controversial discovery that they have found out is that the BTO schemes has led to early marriages and possibly also caused more divorces. By the way, these 4 professors are not some fly-by-night authors. The first professor is Sumit Agarwal. He's a professor in the Department of Economics, Finance, and Real Estate at NUS. Xing Tianfu is the provost chair professor of real estate in NUS Business School. Chen Wenlan is another professor from the real estate in NUS Business School, and Ying Fan is assistant professor in the same place as well. So these are real solid professors that have come out with a very detailed study. And they jointly found out that one possible explanation and increase in divorce rate is that BTO scheme might have rushed marriage decision and increase the likelihood of such marriages. That part I'm not so, most of us are not as concerned. The one that we are concerned is with that young couples, because they rush in a marriage without thinking through carefully, they then divorce, and as a result, have very complicated lives. The advice is young couples should ensure they are marrying for the right reason, for love and not for the sake of being eligible for BTO and try to get a windfall from the BTO. After I came out with the video, a lot of people give a lot of views on some of the observation. I think very few people disagree with the findings by the professor or my views, but I think more actually describe about that is very set in the current view. We have got very interesting views. I'll just highlight one or two of them. One interesting observation by this person is that waited 6 years for BTO, and if a couple to try in a mature estate, you have to try 8 tries to get a queue number. That'll be 2 years of trying, right? He actually mentioned something interesting, like in the past, maybe my time or my earlier time, people do get married by mid-20s or late 20s, right? If someone today want to get married by mid-20s and working backwards, they must have a queue number after A levels. And to get a queue number after A levels means that they have to queue for 2 years, means that they have to start applying for BTO after their O levels exam. And to ensure that each partner is suitable for each other, they need to date for 2 years at least, right? So which means that they have to start looking for their marriage couple around secondary 2. If not, if you don't do that, then you have to pay $500,000 or more for resale. So actually, that's quite interesting observation, right? So in order to get married by mid-20s, you need to start hunting. I think most people highlight that it is now a very big gap between the BTO prices and the resale prices, which now makes it a very tempting effect to get rich through buying a BTO. This is what I call a TOTO effect. So the idea is that, you quickly get married, and everybody wants to get rich fast. Nobody wants to get rich slow. One of the sure way of getting rich is first to apply for BTO early. After 5 years, sell it and make a profit, and then you upgrade to some other bigger apartments and things like that. It's nothing wrong if you want to marry young, okay? But what we don't want is to rush into a marriage. That the couple needs to understand the commitment they are going into, get to know each other a lot more, making sure as much as possible that the partner is the right one and things like that. And there are a lot of comments around this risk right now because of this BTO effect. So couples, once they get together very quickly, they enter into a marriage, to try to apply for a BTO. So there are a lot of comments about people rushing into marriage. If it doesn't work out, never mind. Buy, sell, divorce, right? That's how they make profit. It is very important to realize that marriage are very binding vows, right? It's now very easy to get out of marriage, okay? But marriage is, I think, a very big lifetime decision. maybe in our time, if we marry ourselves with the Mr. Wrong, right, instead of Mr. Right, the traditional idea is to solve the problem, right? Is to try to sort out how do we save the marriage, how do we make wrong things right, and work out the differences, whatever the differences may be. I think nowadays younger people choose the alternative, which is again, just things doesn't turn out right, quickly divorce and go on with life, right? But I think that there's a fundamental shift in this aspect, and the BTO just make it worsen. So one viewer actually came up with a very interesting idea to increase the longevity of marriages, okay, and yet retaining attractiveness of BTO is to implement a clawback on the BTO profit. Urge the government to claw back on the profit made on BTO if the divorce is within X years. This is a very, very good idea. So I thought that this idea, is just very, very innovative. Why don't we implement a policy at this, right? If a couple get married, okay, and after selling the BTO, it divorced within 10 years, the government should claw back all the BTO profits. This will cause all the couple to think twice before they want a divorce. Because the same thing that causes them to want to rush into a marriage, okay, also right now could be the binding factor of helping them to stay together. This will urge them because the amount is very, very sizable, easily a few $100,000. Most of them will have to think twice and try to work things out, okay, as much as possible to save the marriage for money's sake, okay? Now, this one is going to be very controversial. This is not my idea. Someone else come up with this idea. I just developed on it. I think it's a fantastic idea. So nobody will divorce within the 5 years, right? If you will divorce within 5 years, you have to return the HDB back to the government. So most people will wait until 5 years, then they divorce, and then, profit the money. So stretch it to 10 years, right? 10 years, right? If you divorce within 10 years, whether you sell it in year 6 or year 9, okay, the government can claw back all your profits, right? This will cause people to really, really think twice. A lot of people, especially younger people, will be very unhappy if this is implemented, okay? Because, this is a huge infringement of the right to choose. And many couples have good reason for divorce, right? And this will certainly cause them to think twice. But I think that if you implement such a rule, there's going to be a good chance for people to try to work things out because they're going to be stuck together for 10 years, right? They're going to give the marriage a chance to work out. And maybe, both parties are willing to change and accommodate, children will have less impact and things like that. So I think that there is a lot of virtue in this wonderful idea by Shirley. I think we should actually implement this policy, and I hope the government, if you are listening to this video, you should consider this, right? Claw back the BTO profits if the divorce is within 10 years. With this rule being implemented, people will now think very carefully before they enter into marriage. Okay, so we want to not only tell people not to divorce, we also want to tell people that, hey, 10 years, nothing can change, okay? So you better think twice before you go into a marriage. This decision will certainly affect them for the next 10 years. So they really must make it through thick and thin, the hills and the valleys of marriage, which happens to every couple, right? In conclusion, I would like to repeat the same comment I made again and again in my 1965 channel. Your marriage will account for at least 80% of your life success. 80%, if not 90 or even 100. Some people tell me 150%. I don't disagree with them. Okay, those people have lived long years enough like me. You will realize how true this is. To our younger children who are now entering into marriage age, rushing into fighting the BTO battle. There's a BTO windfall to be made and things like that. Ask them to think very, very carefully. Is this the right decision you're making? Never marry because of BTO. Marry because this is what you think is the right person. Of course, right? Over time, you will realize that maybe, this is the wrong person, or maybe over time you realize that things doesn't work out whatsoever, okay? But you'll try your best to give it an important shot, right? So by increasing the cost of divorce, people will think twice, okay, and try to make things right. I think in our parents' time, okay, they try to love the person they marry, right? In our time, we try to marry the person we love. And when we, and when things doesn't quite work out, we just call it a day and things like that. I think there's a lot of virtue in hybriding the both theories together about marrying the person you love and loving the person you marry. If you were to able to merge these two together, work out in all good and bad times, okay, and not to do stupid things in your marriage, obvious things, then there's a good chance, this BTO clawback will never happen to your life. So I don't know what you think, right? So this is a very controversial topic. If you like this idea, please give a like and give me your comment. If you don't like this idea, also give me your comments as well. Let's have a big debate over this, and hopefully the government will look at this clause and think through. Shall we? Thank you, and I'll see you in a day or two. Bye-bye.